Hi, I'm Shannon Burford. I'm your host today for Planet Health Project, and we're lucky to be here with Brad Parkinson, my partner in health. Now, we're going to talk today about mindset and meditation because Brad and I were talking. We love talking about health issues and conditions and the biochemistry and all of that. But we said, hey, we haven't really talked about mindset, and that's equally important, if not even more important. So let's do an episode on mindset. So Brad, how are you today?
Very good, Shannon. I'm in a good state of mind. I set my mind up today to be very positive, constructive. So I'm feeling well.
Good. Even your tone of voice is very calm and soothing. All right. So Brad, let's get straight into it. Just could you share with everyone out there about your journey with mindset and meditation and how it wove its way through your life?
Yeah, sure. Look, at the age of 9, I was doing martial arts, and we often do a bit of meditation. I think nearly every class, or every class, we'd go into something called seiza in Japanese. It's a sitting position, and we'd go into our knees. It was a meditative sort of movement into it, and then we'd close our eyes and just focus on our breathing and relax. And from there, from that meditative state, we would then sort of focus on what we had learned for that lesson. And there'd always be something that was a bit of a theme throughout that lesson when in the early days with the particular martial arts I was doing at the time. And then that sort of carried on through, I was doing martial arts into my teen years. And until I was eventually an instructor myself. So through that journey alone, I'd done a lot of different types of meditation. And if we went to a martial arts camp, for example, we would do some yoga and so forth as well. And then that would invite another style of meditation, and having lots of different instructors in that time period as well. I learned a lot of different techniques, and I think meditation itself can be something you go and sit down and relax and do a certain type of meditation, or it can be just you focusing in the moment. And I quite often, with a lot of my patients, I talk about it. If they don't like the idea of meditation as such as going down, sitting down, focusing on your breath or something similar to that, then they could do it within their sport. There's a lot of people, if they like running and so forth, quite often get into a meditative state. And it's all about being in the moment, letting go of the future and the past, and really focusing on the breath is always a huge component of that. So yeah, that was where it started, I guess, for me, and sort of continued right through. And I'd learned things like the Bushido Code and so forth, and things like veracity, which is truthfulness, benevolence, kindness, politeness, justice, honor, loyalty, and courage were these things that really set up mindset as well. So that's something I'd always try and bring my character in line with, these Bushido codes, so to speak. And that was a good way, not that I really knew what mindset was as we know it today and as it's commonly referred to, but back then in those martial arts practices, and in particular the Bushido Code, I think was really setting my mind up to move forward through life in a positive way, not just within myself, but how I interact with my environment too. So I think that was an important thing. And then the early 2000s came along, and I was doing a lot of traveling, and went overseas, and I went to a Buddhist retreat and learned a lot about Theravada Buddhism, which is really all about when we look at the Buddha in relation to Theravada Buddhism, was about observation. And a big practice was anapanasati, which is mindfulness with breathing. And so just watching the breath come through, very simple, and just practicing that was a form of meditation that I always kind of default back to, and even in an anxious state, I'll always just stop and focus on my breathing and see where I'm at, and try and put myself back in the moment rather than perhaps in an
So
anxious
powerful.
headspace. So yeah, that was really they're the big parts of my life that sort of shaped my meditation journey. Now today, I quite often use, I was using Headspace, which is a good app that a lot of people use and get a benefit from. But one I get a lot from now is Insight Timer. And I find that there's different courses on there. You can sort of gauge how much meditation you're doing if you want to sort of make sure you're sort of on track doing a bit more, and or just want to check in to see if quite often if I'm a bit stressed or anxious or tense or having a rough week, I can see that my meditation hasn't been a part of my week, and it's usually the opposite way occurs if the more I do. And these apps now, like Insight Timer, even as a free app, it offers so much, and so many people contributing to it. It can be like a sleep meditation on there, or there's Taoist meditation course I've enjoyed doing, sort of revisiting some Taoist ideas that I used to when I was young. So used to understand and have Taoism a bit more of part of my life. So revisiting some of those things has been good, and that's just through Insight Timer, an app. So yeah, and it's kind of where I'm at these days. How about yourself, Shannon? I mean, it's obviously a big part of your life too.
I'd just like to comment on a few bits that you mentioned through there. One was the starting very young at 9. It almost makes it easier because our mind is more pliable, and we are able to take on more and maybe develop some of those great patterns that we can carry on for later in life. But that doesn't mean that if you've never meditated and you're 50 that you shouldn't. It's just a common theme that people would say as patients, oh, I can't do that. But there's no better time than to start right now and aim to calm your mind. But obviously, like learning a language too, it is easier when you're younger. And you mentioned about some of those Bushido codes from the martial arts, and are really important as well to have a common foundation which is shared with some religious teachings, or don't do harm and be honest and truthful, and there's definitely no harm in doing that. So my experience probably similar. I didn't start as young. I did do taekwondo and learning respect and respecting yourself as well and elders. And then probably more when I got into it was just after I graduated university. I went traveling and I did the usual India travel and ashrams and meditation. And then I got into a bit of a wilder side of me and went a bit deeper into the meditation, and lived in London, and then went to Cambodia, and I stayed in Korea, and I stayed in lots of temples and sleeping on hard floors and suffering a lot. That taught me a lot, and eating one meal a day and on very little. But I guess through it all, I learned the common themes of breathing, and one of my favorites is walking meditation. And I often just when I'm feeling stressed and I'm powering ahead and my wife's trying to keep up, I'll just calm, and then back to the breath, and just focusing on the foot touching onto the ground and just slowing it all down. Maybe today I don't sit a lot and just meditate. I often lie on the floor, actually just back here often during the day, and do a guided meditation or listen to an audio track or something, or focusing on bits of my body and working through them. I do a lot of gardening. Gardening's probably my meditation. And just being in the zone of the flower or the vegetable and just try and let everything melt away. Other than that little bit of nature,
Mm-hmm.
I find that my meditation these days. Yeah. So you touched on also about mindset and meditation as well. Can you shed some light on mindset?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think it's a very important thing these days because we can have a bad night's sleep. I mean, I now have a 2-month-old, so yeah, my sleep's really testing me at the moment. So yeah, we can wake up and we can be in a bad mood, or something can set us off. If we drive to work or drive somewhere and we're in a bad mood, how do you reset? How do you calm yourself? I mean, going into a meditative state is great, and doing that. Sometimes using a mantra can be very good. But one thing I try and practice where I can is practicing gratitude. I find that's very good at setting up my mind to be a bit more positive and appreciative, and then it sort of creates a really big shift in the way you view things and take things on. So I think that's an important part of mind setting is practicing gratitude. Again, meditation can be a part of that, be a component of that, and then you can meditate on that, and then maybe I quite often will do yoga with my partner, and we'll be grateful for 3 things each, and share that together. And or it could be just something simple as like saying grace before a meal, which is a great religious practice. And being appreciative of the food in front of you, and there's a lot of evidence to support people who do that digest food a lot better and eat healthier. So goal setting is another thing too. I think that's all about mindset too, because how often do we set goals and we put them aside, forget about them, and they're not in our state of mind. And when we set goals, I think every day in every action that we do, we've got to ask ourselves, is that heading towards that goal? And if not, why not? And then that could be all about mindset, all about programming ourselves to move forward to what we want to achieve. So I think goal setting is a huge component of mindset. And I think often we're affected and we're reactive to things outside our control. And I think we've got to also realize that there are things that we can't control, and we just have to focus on being positive ourselves, or being constructive and focus and moving forward. And we can control ourselves. So it's setting up a good mindset to be able to do that. And if so and so is annoying you at work, or so and so is doing this, it's not about controlling them. It's about, well, how can you best behave or best focus on you achieving your goals and moving forward? And that's all to do with mindset, as far as I'm concerned. And I guess I defer to you now, Shannon, and how does mindset play a role in your weekly routine?
It really weaves through every single second of my day, and I guess it does for everyone. But I'm trying to master it constantly, and there's so much evidence now of the positive mindset on immune system and all aspects of health. But if we respond in a negative way, it's going to have a negative effect on our hormone cascade and our inflammatory cascade, and in a negative effect on our body. So I'm trying to constantly, as you mentioned, first gratitude, I will do often when I'm driving, and I'm human. I just like your young baby, maybe my wife or my kids. I've got kids in high school, but something is going to happen that will grate me, and maybe on a higher level, it's something to test me and make me grow, or maybe it's just life, whatever way you want to look at it. There's no benefit of me reacting negatively. So I need to master my mindset to be able to deal with that. So I often, to prevent road rage or to brighten up my day, I'll try and run through 100 things as I'm driving.
Now I can see
And it's
you just
amazing.
be fully enraged on the road, Shannon, and abusing everyone as you drive past. Not at all.
Usually usually more in a rush because I'm trying to achieve too much in the day, and I'm like, I've got to get there in 2 minutes earlier, but just trying to slow it down. But it's amazing, just if you do that after about number 10, you're on to something like, I'm grateful for my legs because I can walk, and suddenly you get all energized and it just blossoms out, and you're suddenly thinking, oh, life is amazing. Just because there are so many things to be grateful for. And
Yeah.
that's just, one thing. But goal setting too is important, sticking to them, and and just trying to be a better human being.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think, just to bring it to a little bit of a close, Brad, what advice can you give to people watching this specifically for their health, of maybe 2 or 3 things that would really help them if they could go out and do that?
Yeah. Well, look, it's important with the meditation as such. A lot of it's to do with breathing. So when we think of breathing, I mean, it could be swimming in the pool can be a good way to develop your breathing as well. We could be doing other sports too, where breathing is essential. Yoga breathing is very important, along with movement. So being mindful of your breath, and it could be as simple as just taking a few minutes out of your day, or you could be dedicating a 15-minute meditation. It doesn't matter. And what's important, I think, for people to realize is that if you practice it once a week or once a day, it doesn't matter. Okay, a little bit can be of great benefit. I know for myself, sometimes I have such busy weeks that I don't get to the gym, or I can't do a proper yoga practice. So I go through a yoga app, and I'll just do 15 minutes of yoga and just get that in. And that will help me for that week. It won't just help me for that day. It has a flow-on effect. And I think it's just about stopping yourself, being in the moment, and that acts as like a reset as well. And then coming out of that, that's a good time to develop your mindset as well, and shift your line of thought if it needs to be shifted, of course. Yeah, look, it's important to always remember when we're doing meditation, or we're setting our mind to a task or our mindset, we've got to remember that our focus determines our reality. Now, I know that that's a reference that I think it refers back to a Star Wars quote, but I'm sure I was hearing that when I was younger, before it came out as a Star Wars quote. But it really does. If you're focusing on the negative, you can be sure you're going to run into it. So focus on the positive, and then you're surely to move forward in life, at least enjoying it a lot more, and hopefully attaining your goals.
Excellent. I didn't know that was from Star Wars. Did Yoda say it?
Well, to be honest, I tried to look up where that quote was from originally, and all it came up was Star Wars. So I was like, no, it's got to be earlier than that. I learned it before that.
100% true, though.
It is so
Words
true.
of wisdom from Yoda. Okay, awesome. Well, thanks so much, Brad, for sharing with everyone your take on mindset and meditation, and sharing those goodies. Yeah. And where can everyone find you, Brad?
They can find me at bradparkinson.com.au, or Brad Parkinson Naturopath. I'll come up everywhere on Google or Facebook.
And I'm Shannon Burford. I'm at Cura Medicine, CURA medicine.com.au. Thank you very much, everyone, and see you on the next episode.
Bye for now.